checking in, go ahead and finish checking in. Don't be shy. We're super excited to kick off our series for today. This is Venture Capital for First-Time Founders, and we are thrilled you're here. So go ahead. I'll give you about 20 seconds or so just to make your way down from the back where I can't see you to the space on the forum stairs here. We got a lot of space. Super excited to launch the first of our Investor Studio series tonight. And as you're making your way down to the forum stairs, I'll tell you a little bit about the ION, a little bit about myself and the programs that we have here, and then I'll introduce our host for tonight. So just by show of hands, whose first time at the ION is tonight? Yeah, raise them high. Awesome. And if your hand is not raised, turn around and give those people a round of applause. Welcome to the ION. We're thrilled you're here. I run an event called Pop-Tarts and Pitches actually on Wednesdays. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But yeah, I got a few cheers there. One of our activities today was saying the word that we think of that first comes to mind when you come into the ION. And so people said words like value, inspiration, innovation, people, purpose. And so community was part of that as well. So all of those are true, and we're thrilled to have you here as part of your community. My name is Dr. Christine Galeb. I'm the Senior Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the ION, and I have the great pleasure of working with our founders, our investors, our entrepreneurs, and our startup community, providing them with the educational programs to help them take their next step. So Pop-Tarts and Pitches, I already mentioned, is one of those programs. If you go to your Eventbrite, you'll see the application to pitch at Pop-Tarts and Pitches. And so you get some airtime pitching to the community. If you go to the Eventbrite, you'll also see the application to join our funded founder community. And that is if you are a funded founder, if you've got some of the VC funding or perhaps other funding, you're a little bit further along in your process, you're scaling your startup, you can join that community as well. Of course, we have a ton of different events here at the ION, all of which are on our website, so make sure you check that out and make sure you sign up for our newsletter as well. So tonight is our kickoff for our Investor Studio series. And one of our big goals this year is to provide that education for funded founders, minimizing that gap between investors and founders. So we want to support Houston's ecosystem and amplify all of our efforts in the best way that we can. So we do that through mingles. We have our FinTech mingle, our aerospace mingle, our med and health tech mingle, and a few more mingles coming online. They meet Monday nights at the ION, so check those out as well. We have our Open Accelerator program, another way to get expert advice from subject matter experts who run a workshop, anything on marketing to branding to storytelling to prototype design as well. Tonight kicks off, as I've mentioned, our Investor Studio series, and I am thrilled to introduce our host for tonight, Neil Dykman. So Neil Dykman is our host for our four-part Venture Capital for First-Time Founders Investor Studio series. He is a 7 times co-founder of tech startups, which have gone on to raise over $500 million in capital with a number of exits and 2 IPOs. He's been a VC for almost 20 years in IT and energy, including at Jane Capital and Royal Dutch Shell, and co-founded his latest fund, Energy Transition Ventures, in 2021 after taking a break to run for U.S. Senate as the 2018 Libertarian nominee and invest in real estate from his family office. ETV, so Energy Transition Ventures, was the first venture fund to open their headquarters at the ION. How cool is that? Let's give a round of applause here for Neil. And then I will also introduce his co-host for today, who is Juliana Garizar, who is the board member of Angel Capital Association, who met Neil when she was the managing director for the Houston Angel Network and is now the VP of Innovation and Houston head of Greentown Labs here in the Innovation District. So Greentown Labs, just across the street. We're so thrilled to have them here in the district, and she'll be joining Neil tonight. Let's give her another round of applause as I turn this over to them.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks to the ION for having us. The first word that comes to mind when I think about the ION is fun. I always have a lot of fun when I come here, and today is no exception. So Neil asked me to be his counterpart here, and he asked me two things. I need to make sure I'm, contradicting him a lot, which is going to be easy because he loves being controversial. And I need to be fun also, okay? And, he thinks that otherwise you're not going to come back. But just to let you know, there's also beers at the end. So this is important, okay? So the topic today is Startuplandia. And so basically, Neil and I are going to pitch about an amusement park that we're setting up together. That is going to be a lot of fun. Not really. This is one of the presentations that I like the most. I think it's the most original of the four that he's going to do. And I think there's a lot of things that you're going to have to unlearn. And I can't wait for Neil to start his presentation. Neil, go for it.
Thank you. Hey, it's great for y'all to come here. I really appreciate it. I'll tell a quick story. Yeah, one of my scientists years ago, Bill Salathiel, who's a Rice guy and worked for Exxon, who was my chief scientist for years, used to tell me that basically anyone can be an expert on anything, given 5 years. The theory being to get a PhD takes 5 years. By the end of that time, you're an expert in a very narrow little field. Therefore, you can be an expert on anything. You just need 5 years. And I think he was thinking about that as kind of a, that's a long time. I was like, this is pretty uplifting. It means, quite frankly, that 5 years from now, I can do anything I want.
So Neil, what are you an expert at? Because everybody knows you as a VC, but I didn't know what your superpowers was. He told me that he has a superpower in writing bios, which
it's
I
writing
think is
bios,
pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, but how many companies have you launching and getting funding?
So somewhere between 6 and 9, depending on what you count. And then there's a few others that I was on the ground floor of but didn't found.
So
you're like signing those documents, the founding documents, I'm probably at 7.
So you've perfected the art of setting companies and getting money for them.
Perfected the art of reverse engineering venture capitalists so you can sell them stock. And I am a venture capitalist, so I'm really good at reverse engineering and gaming VCs. And well, look, I was trained to do startups by a former partner of mine, Jane Lindner. Jane, among other things, was failed out of a PhD program and launched a startup doing speed reading. Evelyn Wood back in the day. And she and my other partner there, they'd founded 20-odd companies between them. They just dripped startups off their fingers as they walked along the street. And we're not talking, I thought it was like a lie until I started meeting some of the people they'd done business with, and yeah, those companies were real. And they just had a touch to launch things. And so we kind of, when we launched our firm 20-odd years ago, we kind of learned how to do that. So she taught me that when we were in a fund behind a bunch of .coms, including yellowpages.com, et cetera. And so we just started making them. For a while there, we were founding 1 or 2 a year. And then we were just really good at getting that A round done and getting their shot on goal.
But was it in Silicon Valley or was it in Texas?
Oh, in the Valley. It's hard to found a startup in Houston. That's why we're here.
Okay, good.
Well,
good.
Seriously. I moved back in 2010. I'm from Houston, 6th generation. My family showed up here in 1837 in Montgomery County. And I went home, I told my wife, I went and met kind of 4 or 5 people. There've been the networks in Houston. I went home and told my wife, I have screwed up. This is really bad. This scene is dead. I have destroyed my career. I got to go back to the Valley. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was depressed. Right? The world's better than it was then in Houston, but it's still hard. I didn't found one company I spun out of shell. But other than that, it was hard because you can't pull a team here. People, they're working on the wrong thing. So Startuplandia, this talk was delivered to HTC, that's what we wrote it for, to basically try and teach people that Houston doesn't need any more money. It doesn't need any ecosystem. Ecosystem is a stupid word. It needs more founders. We can handle 100x more founders than we have, at least maybe 3 orders of magnitude. We need more of them.
Okay, so you're telling me that we don't need more money. We've
Correct.
been hearing that we need more money and that we need to create an ecosystem around the energy transition. What am I doing here?
I know. You are preparing to quit your job and launch another company.
Okay.
So let's explain the difference between a Texas founding thing and a Silicon Valley founding thing. In Texas, here's what happens. I have a startup idea. It is my idea. It is the best idea in the world. I am going to do my startup idea. It is a very good idea. Would you like to do it with me? I don't care about your idea. No, no.
Okay.
Would you like to do mine? And 18 months later, I still have me, my startup idea, jack worth of cash, and no progress. And it's the venture capitalist's fault or the ecosystem's fault.
So tell me something. That means that you cannot have solopreneurs?
You can, but it's hard as hell.
Okay, okay.
Right? So the Valley doesn't work that way. Maybe because they're not quite as egotistical as Texans, but in the Valley, yeah, right, you go out to your apartment complex or the coffee shop, wherever, and you meet your friends, and everybody's working on a startup. They don't have, the goal is not their idea, the goal is any idea that gets them a startup, right? So, oh, I've got a couple ideas I'm working on, and then I go talk to Grace, and I'm like, hey, Grace, what are you doing? Oh, I've got a couple ideas I'm working on. I talked to Juliana. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I've got a couple ideas I'm working on. And we kind of feel each other out, share ideas, because none of us are dumb enough to start without some help. So we're basically trying to figure out which one we're going to do. We're going to do one. And then there's a catalyzing moment out of this primordial soup of startup stuff. And maybe one of us gets fired, so we have to do something. Maybe we get a term sheet, or one of our friends will give us a little bit of money. Maybe a customer gets excited. It doesn't really matter. There's a catalyzing moment, and then it's like, hey, I'm in. And then, now here's the question, right? Who owns the stock of the company? Because it's founding stock. That's why it's called founding stock. So, step one to found a company in the Valley, right? You get 2 or 3 people that will commit. Now, if those people are only going to put a toe in, I'm still going to keep my day job, they're useless.
Okay, interesting. We have a lot of those here.
I know, right?
Right? We have the primordial chili here, I guess.
Yes, it's bad. It's like swimming through chili. Yes, bad.
Swimming through the chili is bad. Okay.
So, next step, you need a lawyer. Any stupid, useless lawyer will do. Luckily, there's...
Any stupid, useless lawyers in the room? Raise your hands.
Are there any lawyers in the room? All right, good. Yeah, there are no startup lawyers in Texas, unfortunately. It is really annoying. We have to send our startups to the coast to get lawyers. Yeah, but all you got to do is you file a Delaware C Corp. To file a Delaware C Corp and to finish the incorporation stuff, the lawyer needs to know a couple of things. What's the name of the company? If you don't have a cool name, you can't do a startup. So you have to pick a name. You don't got to know who's going to own the stock, who they got to cut up the shares to. So I got to know that Grace and Juliana and I, we're going to do a startup, right? So then I got to, how many shares?
I'm signing up already.
Yeah, 1,000 shares. I get 600. You guys each get the difference.
Okay. We're starting. We're starting on the
wrong
wrong foot
yeah.
here.
No, this is
already, you know.
Right. This is the catalyzing moment.
Okay.
And then who's going to be president? Because you got to have an officer to sign in that little thing after the incorporator is done. You got to have an officer, right? And that's it. Oh, and then you should probably get a domain name that matches the name you picked. This is all
Interesting.
you need.
Not that straightforward as we would think, right?
This is it. This is
Yeah.
it. You're done. Once that happens, the startup exists. Then
So,
you can.
so raise a hand here. Who's created a Delaware C? Okay.
See, they
not
exist.
Bad. Not bad.
So now there are 2 phases of startup life: launch phase and winning phase.
Oh, so there's a winning phase in all this.
Well, or winning goes into blow up, but
Okay.
theoretically, yes, when it goes well. So they are not the same. And everything you've been told about startups is a lie. It's all about the winning phase. And it's a lie. So who's ever played Settlers of Catan? Yeah? All right. These board games. First thing you got to do to win Settlers, one of these little board game things, you got to get victory points. Right? Very important. You work backwards. I don't get victory points, I cannot win. Most victory points wins. That's like the exit, right? So, problem, you can't get victory points unless you have some cards and you build stuff to get you victory points. So the first phase of Settlers and most of these little strategy board games is you sit around and you're like collecting cards, shuffling them in your hands. Or like Gin, same thing. You can't play. You don't have any cards to play. So we've just filed our incorporation documents. You've got 200 shares. You've got 200 shares. I got 600.
Oh my. Okay. I think we're heading for trouble.
You know,
so
that's
the cards.
That's true. All right, fine.
Tell us about
you got
the cards.
400 shares.
Okay.
Grace has 100.
No.
No? All right, fine. Anyway, that's actually one of the most important parts of the startup is cutting that up. Who's going to do it, right? Okay, so we exist. We have 0 resources. Now, if we're a software company, doesn't matter. What I need is 4 coders sitting around a little table, right? 6 months of your time. That's what we're betting. We're betting 6 months together. And we're each going to sit there and we're going to build our product. And we can get 6 months, 4 of us, several thousand man-hours with no cash thrown against a problem. And frankly, if you can get several thousand man-hours thrown against a problem, we can crack a lot of nuts. Hard tech startup, some of the other stuff, you need some cash. And even at that, you're going to need a little bit more cash. So at some point, we're in a resource aggregation phase. We got to get resources, which means people to give us their time for stock or cash that we can spend on people and stuff. The only thing that matters in this launch phase is getting resources, right? You get to the seed or the A round, or you have no company.
So you know, I think we started with a very unfair advantage, you know, because you and I and Grace, we are a killer team.
Yes.
What happens if, you know, somebody's new?
Except Grace won't quit her job from BP. I've been trying to get her to.
Well, maybe after this
Maybe
pitch,
so.
you know, Startuplandia sounds like a cool company to me too. So how can you convince, you know, and that's something that you mentioned here in Texas, someone to join when you only have?
You don't.
Okay.
If they're not in, find someone else.
So you're telling that co-founders are like investors in reality. They are your first investors.
No, they're much dumber than investors. Investors get paid by LPs. We're going to do that next week. We talk about how venture capitalists make money, right? They get paid to go mess with you. Startup, you got to be completely irrational to found one. It's fun. Best thing in the world. You have 2 choices in life. You can either work for somebody or start something. And if you don't want to start something, then stop whining about working for somebody. But if you're going to start something, you need to just do it. And all you need to start is getting people, right? So, look, I have a startup equation.
Okay.
Would you like to hear the equation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Anybody want to hear the equation? It's literally just math.
Get
It's
your
real.
pens
Once
out.
it's math, if it has pluses and equals in it, it must be real. Okay, so this is the real equation for starting a startup. So people plus problem equals start. Okay? We probably shouldn't file those documents if we don't have a problem worth solving.
So that's also interesting because a lot of people file without having a real problem.
So if we're working on a bad problem, it may go nowhere. But frankly, if you got 2 or 3 people that are kind of all interested in doing a startup and y'all all agree this is a real problem, it's probably real because it's very hard to get someone to bet 6 or 12 months of their time if it doesn't at least sound like a real problem. And then you need people. 3 resumes and this problem idea, and we're good to go. That gets you to start. Now, we have nothing here, right? To go, we need a tech, right? So start plus tech equals go. Tech is the solution. And the way you talk about it in the Valley is real simple. You're in this conversation, you're meeting this person, and he starts explaining to me, well, you know, I was with my friend, and we were discussing this business, and I went and saw this customer, and it turns out, and the words "it turns out" are the little Valley code for, I'm about to tell you how smart I am, and I figured this thing out. And that is the tech. It might be simply an idea of how to. One of our entrepreneurs...
That's the thing, right? Because how far along needs the tech to be to get money?
It doesn't.
So that's also very controversial.
So we can get to, I'll get to my truisms in a second.
Okay,
one of the truisms, there is never too early for an early stage investor, only bad looking deals. I'm serious. I would rather invest when there's nothing and I can get it for the dirt cheap price if it's a good deal. I don't want to pay up if I don't have to, right? So if they say it's too early, they're lying to you.
So is that a truism or is it a nihilism?
No, that's maybe nihilistic, but it's true.
Okay.
Okay, so problem, and we got the tech, right? So tech could be, Arnie Ballantyne, who's the CEO of Ohmium, one of our startups, he's the first-time founder. I asked him how he started the company, doing PEM electrolyzers. And he says, well, I wanted to do electrolyzers, green electrolyzers. The problem is how do you make them cheap and last and good and that sort of thing. So I sat in a room and I started writing IP. Well, the guy's got 170 patents, to his name. And what he really did was he sat down and said, okay, my problem is I want green hydrogen, and I got to create, electrolyzers to do it. So how do I make one that is good and low cost? And those are ideas. So he starts thinking about it, and he just reduces it to practice and puts it in a patent, because why wouldn't you, if you reduce it to practice, go file the patent? So it may be as simple as patent. I started a company once literally by filing 2 patents because my partner was going to break up with me for the little startup we were going to do. And I'm like, you're not going to do that. I'm just going to go write it into a patent and make you decide if you really want to fight. And then we came back together and launched the company.
So where is the patent in your formula?
Where's the patent? It's in tech, right?
Okay.
Any solution to that problem with some people against it, now we're at go. This is the idea.
So the patent is crucial?
Nah, it doesn't have to be a patent. It can literally be, I think I know how to solve this.
Okay.
But if you're going to go pitch, you better have an answer to the what we're going to do, not just the I've got a problem, right? So that doesn't get you money. Fundable is different. Go, or plus any kind of validation or traction equals fundable. Sometimes, because we're good.
Start, go.
Start, people plus problem.
Equals start.
Start plus tech or a solution.
Equals go.
Go plus
Traction.
or validation, something that you can sell a stupid VC on, equals fundable. Sometimes your resumes are good enough that you are the traction. You are the validation. I've sold deals before like, hey, I just came off exiting this one company. I'm about to do it again. Would you like to fund me? And I don't really care that you know what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter. You're betting on me. Sometimes I've got an IP or a piece of IP or an idea or a partner or some solution. But you got to have something that says, hey, I'm getting somewhere. Right? So that now we're fundable. It's best if you're in a very big market, and if you're
Makes sense.
and if your problem is really what matters. If nobody cares about your problem, it's hard. And it's best if your solution is actually good. But those are nice to haves. You at least have to have one of each of those. Okay. After that, we got to make a PowerPoint so we can go sell investors. Back in the day, you had to write a business plan. Nobody writes in business plans or investment memos anymore. Back in the day, I literally had to write 80 pages to start a company. Now investors are like, oh, that's too many. I want 10 slides.
5 slides.
Start with the bios page, work backwards, and you make a little deck and go sell investors. So our truisms: there is always capital for good ideas. Always.
Okay, so we've been lied to.
Yes.
Okay.
There's more cash than God in this sector. There is. Any good team is fundable. Any good team is fundable. Maybe small amounts, big amounts, but fundable. Emphasis on good team, and team is always first, not the rest of the stuff. Investors look at people, your idea is kind of useless. Ideas and IP are completely useless without the framework of the people and the tech and the traction.
So ideas are just ideas till they become opportunities with the team and the traction.
You can actually hire an engineer in the valley for X dollars per head count. It doesn't matter if their product failed. You're buying bodies, you're buying talent, right? People always dominate. That's why I say Houston doesn't need more money, doesn't need more ideas. It just needs more founders.
So how can we help with that? And are the investors here going to become the founders? Like, you are, VC Fuel also created clean energy services. Is this happening?
Yeah, that's good. He's supposed to do that. He's supposed to stop that little investment stuff and go do some real work, like start a company.
Okay, good.
We're working on one right now. We're gonna spin out at some point. I like being a founder. I'm very good at being a founder, right?
You are.
And I'm very good at talking other people into quitting their jobs so they should go be a founder. But if they won't quit their jobs and jump in with 2 feet, I can't even talk about funding them, because nobody will fund anybody. If you're not willing to commit your time and your friend's time, yeah, we're a non-starter.
So Startuplandia is about you quitting your jobs, okay? Who here has a job because they need to quit now?
Yes. So look, it's a mind share thing. You can't get enough man hours in 10 or 20% of your day to do anything. It is not fair to ask other people to commit whole hog, but you don't have to do it for 2 years, right? You got to do it for a few months, because if in a few months it doesn't work, you just join somebody else's startup. It doesn't matter. Right? So all you're really betting is 90 or 120 days, as long as you're betting it together. If you bet alone, you better be prepared to bet 2 years of your life. And your wife ain't going to like that. Your spouse is not going to like that. They're going to be like, what happened?
I'm glad you corrected. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So bottom line, if a founder cannot pull an A team, and if they cannot get enough traction to aggregate capital, you are not a founder, you do not have a startup.
Okay, so I'm guessing we need to find more founders.
We need to mint more founders. So almost always, if you're in this launch phase and you don't have money, and it's been a while, and you don't have customers, you don't have product, stuff's not going right, you have a team problem. Every once in a while, you have a market problem. But if you see a whole bunch of other people getting funded in your area, it ain't a market problem.
So how long is too long for wait for money and for co-founders?
Well, you don't start till you have the founders. So the clock doesn't start till then, so we're kind of faking the timeline.
Oh, okay.
But, well, it depends. In the Valley, it goes fast because you're in the primordial soup, everybody's looking, and you know all your friends have been at a startup, so it's just a question of have they exited or failed, or are they mad at their boss and want to quit. In Houston, it is hard. I can't give you a timeline because finding the founders to jump with it in is hard, and people have nasty habits in Houston. Oh, I've done one, I don't want to do another one.
So is this series that you're creating your attempt to create the primordial chili here in Houston?
No, we're just making a video roadmap to publish.
Oh, okay.
The audience
So
is
this is
just
all
here
for
for
a
us.
show? Okay.
Just for show. Look, all I need is to find, as a venture capitalist, very self-serving, I need to find a couple of founders to fund. We have 4 first-time founders in our portfolio. So we've only done 4 deals. We have 4 first-time CEOs. We've been the first check multiple times, yeah, and then we have to teach them all the things that they don't think they need to know, but that's okay. Yeah, and then I get to go cheerlead them, but if I can't find founders, I can't deploy cash. My LPs get very mad because I can't deploy my cash, so I got to find founders. So all I need to do is cherry pick a couple. But all right, so we move to the next phase, right? Now, let's assume, like the good economists, we're going to assume you've got your money, seed round, A round, some contracts, something. So you now have some resource. We've moved from the settlers.
That's a very big assumption. So that's the winning part, I guess.
We're now in winning.
Oh, of course we are.
Winning
Yeah.
is different than launching. Everything I just told you is now a lie. And we move on to the phase 2. What do you do to win? I have money. Okay? So winning starts when you have some resources. And the rules change. When you're in launch phase, you do not do anything that does not lead to getting those resources. Like in settlers, you don't start going and playing your roads because you can't build a road. You don't have enough resources. You got to collect cards so that you can play to win, right? So once you've got resources now, all that matters is playing the cards well and winning.
So what about all this bootstrapping we've been doing all along, you know? There's so many entrepreneurs who have a side gig and they finance that for their startup. It's not the way to go, I guess. What's your answer?
If founders can't pull an A team and get enough traction to aggregate capital, there is no startup. He and she or they are no founder.
Go back to rule number 1.
Go back to, look, yes, you're very welcome to bootstrap a company. Not a problem. What I'm talking about is the cookbook to not to build a neat lifestyle business or a cool product, but to build a high-growth, hyper-growth startup, funded startup that's taking a big shot on goal. That takes resource. So if you go and try and do that type of problem without any resources, and you spend your limited resources, our time, on building 5% of a product, but you don't have enough cash to get to the next part, you're done. It doesn't matter. If you do the same thing, and I'm building a services business, I'm building something that doesn't need a lot of capital, ignore these rules. This is the wrong playbook.
Okay, so this is for Unicornlandia.
Unicorn is a new thing. We didn't have unicorns back in the day. $1 billion is the new 100 million. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to raise money and you need to raise money, these are the rules you follow. If you want to go build a cool product, well, okay, now we're in winning. Now we got to go build a cool product. Wade, where are you? Wade, where are you? There you are. Okay, Wade will teach you how to build a product. So as soon as you get here, as soon as you have any resource, and resource may be I've got 3 of my buddies and we're going to go spend that 2,000 hours, and it's a software product, so I don't need any cash. All right, but now we need to build a product that'll make happy customers or deliver some milestone that'll get us more cash from another VC. Because when you get resource, in venture land, you get 2 years, right? That's the gold standard, right? I'll give you 2 years of burn rate.
That's very optimistic.
I give you 2 years of burn rate. I don't give people 12 months of burn rate. There's some stupid seed funds that do, but I don't. Because if I give you 12 months, if I give you 6 or 12 months of little seed money, you know what your job with that seed money is? You're not in winning phase. You're in launch phase. Your job is to spend that money, go get more money. You pretend you're building stuff, but your job is to get enough resource to take the shot on goal, right? So winning, almost always first step is you got to get space. In launch phase, you don't need space. Joey and Jan and Christine, they got space over here for you. You just come down here and work. It's free.
It is free, girl.
Yeah. Then
Woohoo!
Juliana will sell you some space next door for not too much money when you got a couple people and you need a place to work, right? So, but as soon as you have resource, trust me, if the engineers don't have a nest, you are screwed. Because engineers can't work without a nest. Either they're home or they got to know where to go and work together. And then you need people. You got to change. I'm giving you cash, not to sit on it. You know, like the whole parable of the talents and stuff. You need to spend my money. You need to build some stuff. That means you need to turn cash into people and hardware and product to go make my eyes light up, next investor's eyes light up, your customer's eyes light up, and you got to figure out what to build. This is the product thing. If you pick the wrong thing to build, you're going to be in trouble. If you can't get enough people, you're going to burn slowly. You just dribble the cash out. So you got to make progress. And usually, you give money to a startup, and the next thing is, oh my God, where do I get the people?
So that's another problem, right? I mean, we're talking
Yes.
about co-founders. What about, you know, when you finally get the money you need to hire, where do you find the right talent to do successfully a startup in growth phase?
Oh, that's really hard. You got to steal them. That's hard.
Okay, so we're showing a lot of things here. You need to leave your job. You need to
Yes.
steal.
Yes.
Okay, that's
So look, this is important. Startuplandia is not a nice world. It looks nice.
okay.
It's optimistic, pretending to be nice. But this is not nice. It is rough and tumble. It is up or out. It is brutal. It's supposed to be brutal. Yeah, 1 in
I
10.
thought we were trying to build an ecosystem. Is not the word? Okay, so ruthless sharks in Startuplandia.
Look, all right, I'm going to tell you my 270-day rule.
Okay.
Okay, so I used to go back and forth between the Valley and Houston. I lived out there for 10 years. Family's here. I'd come home, right? Meet my friends, hang out, do some work, whatever. And you notice my friends in Houston would tend to be talking about the same thing they were the last time I saw them. Same product, same job, same company. It's cool. Life is good, not a problem. Same project. It's a 10-year project at a big oil company. I'm still working on the same one.
Yeah, well, we're solving the toughest problems in the world.
So they say. So when I'm here and I go back to the Valley, I go talk to my friends, and I go see 5 or 10 or 20 of them each time. I go back every few months. You notice, hey, I haven't seen you since, last March.
But,
You know what?
Are there real problems over there, or they're just fake, you know? Do you need all these things that they're trying to sell you there?
That's up to the customer, not me.
Uh-huh.
Customer's buying, they're buying. But go with me here. You would never be telling me about the same stories, the same product, probably not even the same company or the same job that you were the last time we had coffee, right? You've moved on.
Or matcha tea?
I don't do that.
No, I'm saying over there.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Okay.
I'm a flat white preference. Actually, here I get my coconut milk latte.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
See?
So you'd never be doing the same thing. 9 months, right? I give you 2 years of cash, right? In my startup, and our little burn rate that you don't believe, but we do. Yeah. At 270, you've either moved the needle enough to get some more resources or go build a product, sell customers. Something good has changed. Or you have another 270 days to do it, and at that point, you're within 6 months running out of cash, you're in trouble. Yeah. If you are doing, as a startup, the same thing now, if you are talking about the same thing today that you were 270 days ago, you are walking dead, you are in trouble, you are not doing your job right. Something is wrong. You need to look in the mirror and figure that out. 30, 90 days, you can't do much, right? It takes time to get resources, spend resources, et cetera. A year or two, well, that's a long time. That's why we came up with this 270-day rule. Same at a board meeting. If you are talking to a CEO And the third or fourth board meeting, if they're still mentioning that same problem, and we're at the fourth quarterly board meeting or the third one on that, it's kind of like, you know what? Either this wasn't a problem and you probably shouldn't have mentioned it to me, or it is a problem and you haven't solved it and you're the problem, not it.
So who has a board here? Raise of hands. Okay.
So 270 days. Speed kills. Right? Okay, so let's get to kills.
Kills.
Kills. What, question for the audience, what is the only way to kill a startup? No. Again, only way to kill a startup. It is not run out of money. It's close. Kill the founder. Sort of.
Giving too much money.
No. Run out of cash or people. Usually, if you got cash, you can get people. And if you got people who are any good, you can get more cash. You can sell stock, sell a contract, you know, get a customer, something. You have to run out of both. So you got to raise cash when you can. This is like the normal rule. Raise cash when you don't need it. Raise cash when you can. Raise as much as you can. Don't worry about dilution. All the normal things that no founder believes, but are all true, because that'll kill your startup. And you got to recruit all the time. One of my colleagues years ago, he used to tell me, they had an electrochemical company, and he told me they literally interviewed every single graduate level electrochemist in the United States of America every year just to try and keep their pipeline full. It's hard. If a CEO is not spending 30% of their time recruiting and on people, you're doing it wrong.
So are you okay with recruiting remotely? You know, you mentioned that you need a space where your team can be, and now post-COVID, everybody's recruiting somewhere else. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think distributed teams are hard, mainly because building a culture in a distributed team is hard, but it's kind of the way of the world, right? So you may not have a choice. Our startups, one of them, we literally coalesced Austin in this current fund. One of them, they're basically all remote. Another one, big plants in India, office in California, but they're kind of scattered on the team. So you got to find your own path. Yeah, but you got to get people. And so sometimes today you may have to relax the assumption and get them wherever you can get them. Pay them whatever you got to pay them. One of my startups, I was running this startup. I was trying to hold costs low and all, which is a dumb idea. Well, good idea on one hand, dumb idea on the other. Yeah. Well, here's what happened. I was the 6th highest paid employee within 90 days. And I had people in Australia, Switzerland, California, a couple other places, like anywhere I could get them. I was trying to get talent. You can't take your shot on goal without talent. Okay, next is you got to pay attention to your burn rate and your time, because you can't run out of cash and people at the same time. And you can't screw up your cap table, because if you do that, well, you're not going to gain more money.
So how many companies do that? Because you tell me that you can't fund companies here in Houston because most of them have their cap table.
We call it a well-formed deal.
Okay.
Right? We want well-formed deals. We want founders, employees, and us. Anybody else on that cap table? That's not good. So if you hand out founder shares to a bunch of people who are not contributing and are not all in with both feet, that's dead weight on your cap table. You get too much of that, you get investors who are not going to continue to support you. You get founders who go off and do something else. You better be careful that's not too big a chunk of your company.
So how many entrepreneurs here are giving shares for advice? Okay.
So, again, well-formed deal. These all rules may be broken, right? So everything's holistic.
Okay.
And we will go through in the next ones, when we go through how to raise money in number 3, basically how to game a venture capitalist, because venture capitalists are parasite sheep and easy to manipulate. Yeah, we want to be manipulated, by the way. That's a good thing. If you can manipulate me, you can probably manipulate the next investor, and you can probably don't have to tell you what to do every day, which is great. And if you can't, I'll teach you how to manipulate me so that you can go on and do said things. That's series 3. We're not going to talk about that tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so next thing, you got, again, we're turning cash into people.
Kill it.
Kids.
We gone, no, not about kids. I mean, kids, yeah. Also,
I have a personal assistant who comes to some of my Zoom calls.
You mentioned that we were going to kill the deal, right? That's how we were? Like in the killing phase or not?
No, we're out of the killing phase now. We're in hiring people.
Okay.
We're turning cash into people and stuff.
Okay, so we have avoided the killing by
turning cash into people that do things like build a product, find a customer, get more money. So usually, and we'll talk about this in number 4, which is the 7 things that founders do to screw up their company after they raise their money. But just as a hint there, they hire all Indians and not all chiefs. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that anymore.
I know, I was going to say, hello.
So I'm giving
because, you know, he told me about that sentence when we prepare for this. I mean, it doesn't look prepared at all.
A lot of things they don't let me say anymore.
But I'm like, this is not a good thing, and I need to tell him. But then he jumped to another phase of the whole thing, and I'm like,
look,
okay.
What it really boils down to, if you hire all individual contributors in shell speak, and not...
So yes, people.
Not yes, but it's like the general staff model in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you want to be able to go fast and build your army quickly, you can always add the privates and the recruits because you've got a plan to train them, right? But what's hard is you need those sergeants and the officer corps and the framework. So your first hires need to kind of be senior people that know how to build. So once you pour some resources into them, they go. They pull their team. They can get people. They can organize and go. Yeah, and you got to be a little careful if you bring on too many people that are doers and not that can both plan and do. This is art, not a science. There's none of these are hard and fast rules. All right.
So what kind of profile of generals or privates do we have here in Houston?
Good ones. Oh, in Houston. Look, the problem in Houston is not talent. The problem is getting the talent to come work at a startup because they've been see all those people up on the logos up on the wall. They all get bought off by the big corporates. Or bought off by the PE funds, and they don't want to go take the startup risk with the high reward. And it's not they as pejorative. Some people do, but getting enough of them. So you see a lot of times startups, had to go to Austin or wherever to get people. Well, you don't. There's a startup upstairs here in the Ion. I won't name them until I get them on the stage in a couple of weeks. They got 90 people. He was telling me that yesterday. Principal office here. They got like 30 in Houston. They got like 12 in the office.
So we have an opportunity cost problem here.
Well, that startup didn't care. They just went and got people wherever. They're running that distributed model. Right?
People don't want to be entrepreneurs here because their jobs are too cushy.
That's why they have to quit. If you don't quit your job, you probably won't start a company.
Quit your jobs, guys.
Yeah. All right, so hang on. So after who to hire, that's important. We can't get all into that today. And you got to get this whole what to build thing, right? Because
makes sense.
You got money, you got to build something. And it's what I learned about engineers when I was managing them badly back in the day. Engineers are going to build what they think you want because they're engineers. They engineer and build stuff. So if they're not clear what the vision is, and if they don't have a clear product that they're supposed to build, they're going to build you something that is completely unsellable because they're just going to build. They're like nanobots.
So we're going to have plenty of ideas looking desperately for problems.
Yes. So we actually need product people. That's why Wade, wave again. Wade's a product guy. My partner, Craig's a product. Craig, wave. Where are you, Craig? Right? You need product people. We don't have product people in Texas, but you got to find some, right? Because the what to build and how to go to market with it is actually pretty important. In fact, the bottom line on winning, launching is easy. Getting an A round, getting money is actually pretty easy. I've done it half a dozen times. I know a lot of really stupid people that have done it with stupid ideas in bad markets. I have done it with bad ideas. I'm a history major, right? I'm completely useless. So if I can pull it off, other people can.
Okay.
Winning is hard because you got to get a product right and get to market. Just like in Settlers of Catan, collecting some cards so you can go play is easy, but there's only one winner. The winning is playing it right is the hard thing. So what usually happens when you do the postmortem, remember the postmortem on launch phase, if you're not getting there, it's probably you, it's the team, or you just picked a problem that nobody cares, a market or problem nobody cares about. Winning is different. Almost every single time, if you are gotten money and you're going somewhere and your velocity is not there, right? You're not getting the little SaaS metrics. You're just not getting customer buy-in. It's just not hitting on all cylinders. You may not be failing. It's just not quite
Maybe
there.
a zombie.
Yeah, you could even be doing okay or well. Almost every single time you look to the product, you have built the wrong product, and that could mean you have a good product or tech, but you're going to market wrong. Or you are not focused and you've taken your $4 million and you've decided to do product C and product B. Again, we're getting in number 4, you know, this mistakes y'all screw up. Yeah. So it's either lack of focus is almost always a product thing because it means your resource is not going into the product that the customer wants.
So that lack of focus, I think that's also something that
It's always the
entrepreneurs,
product, stupid.
you know, because you want to get money, so you become opportunistic, but then you cannot be the solution for everything, right?
Look, this is tech. Content is king. Software eats the world. Your stuff's got to be good. If it's not good, it's okay. You'll shut it down, get acqui-hired, sell it, go home, do another one, start next one. It's okay.
And that's the problem. Is it okay, though? Because
Yes.
people don't like failing. I think we don't fail fast enough here.
No, I don't like that term.
Okay.
I don't care about failing fast. I just want to do a startup.
You have a time deadline.
You can feel it. Yeah. When it goes,
So we are in the realm of feelings now.
yeah.
Okay.
When it's working, you can feel it. You can feel the pull. The VCs will refer to this as push versus pull, or we call it traction. Like our mantra when we fund things is team, tech, traction. We don't even worry about product market fit because if your tech doesn't work, it doesn't matter. If your team sucks, I'm not going to fund you. Yeah, and if you got traction, that kind of tells me something interesting. So I might backtrack. We look for things like, okay, this is a ugly looking team that has got traction that they shouldn't have by any rule we can come up with. Huh? That's interesting. That dichotomy, that's super interesting. I'll back founders that are bad-looking founders, but man, those people should not be working for them.
So when you say bad looking, what kind of metric do? Okay,
they don't fit the
mold.
prototypical model.
Okay.
But you look at them like, why are those people working for them? They got people on their team better than them. Why did they go take that job? Somebody sold them something. Founder did that. Founder's job generally is to sell stock, sell people, sell customers, and sell the company. Right? So if you're doing those, and I don't think you should be able to, this is probably interesting. This kind of, we'll get to number 2 and 3, how you game VCs. They're really easy to game. But we're back to, look, if it's not working and you have resource, it's always the product. Always. Sometimes you were building tech into a cul-de-sac, and it was never, the scale-up was never going to work. Yeah. Sometimes it's just a really bad marketer. As one of my investors years ago referred to, he says, Neil, after the company didn't do that well, he says, Neil, well, it's okay. Those darn customers just did not behave.
So how easily can you pivot when your problem is a product?
Remember, you got 270 days, right? 2 years of cash, 270 days. As long as you pivot on day 269, you may be okay. You got another 270 days. So one of our first company we funded, ETV, it's called DroneBase, really cool company. They're doing asset inspections for renewables, flying drones and stuff. That was not what they started doing. They were going to be the Airbnb of drones, the Uber of drones. Cool tech. Didn't build a great business. They pivoted, basically realized the customer just wanted them to run an inspection. So they're basically building what we term the kind of the oil-field service company of the renewable industry. That's the goal. So they pivoted. They got all their investors to kick in and basically give them another shot, and it worked. Yeah, like, okay. All that matters is it works. Now, to pull that off, go back to not screw up your cap table and the well-formed deal. If all the investors around the table were not all coming in together, if one of the big ones says, I'm out, that pivot cannot happen. So the pivot's not just you as the founder. You and Grace and I, we're excited. We got a new idea. Great. You got to go pull your investors around with you and your team along with you. And so you kind of got to keep people aligned. Yeah. So sometimes pivots that should happen just don't. And keep in mind, I'm a VC. I do not want to be in control of your company. If I wanted to run your company, I would be a founder. I'm not ever going to buy 50% of the company. If I do that, I'm just going to let you die. It's not a problem. There was a quote in a little Twitterverse the other day that good VCs don't mind losing all their money. on a given deal, right? It's okay. Good founders understand, exit what we got, try again, join somebody else's. Some great VCs, according to this little Twitter thing, don't mind putting in a little bit more to make their money back or a little bit more. They're not going to make the fund on it. Again, we'll talk about how VCs make their money next week. But they're willing to help the good ones pivot, right? So, but who you raise money from and what your product is will kind of determine, and how many mistakes you make will kind of determine, should you pivot, can you pivot? But pivots are hard.
They are.
Not as hard as winning, but they're hard.
So what other truisms do we have, or are we at the end of the formula for Startuplandia?
I gave you the equation. It's like literally the entire equation.
So we have it.
Now it's just math.
We have it.
We have it. So
what are we waiting for?
we're waiting for you to quit your job, Grace to quit her job, so we can start the company.
Okay, so should we pull some entrepreneurs from the audience now?
We should.
Okay. So why don't we pull yours first? He's a good one, right?
Who are you going to pull?
Your product guy.
Which one?
You
Wade?
don't have-
Wade.
Yeah.
I've spent this afternoon trying to get Wade to quit whatever he thinks he's doing and do another startup.
So Wade, what is wrong with you?
You're facing failure in a barrel, okay, in 270 days.
See?
Wade, I know you're comfortable with failure. What are you talking about?
So there's so much failure you can take.
So you just do another one. So the way I think about it, I am only ever going to be in a startup. I took a vacation to work for Royal Dutch Shell for 3 and change years, and it was a vacation, right? I was never a lifer. I was never going to be. I have no interest in it. I started off at a big company. I had a really awesome opportunity to work for Shell for a while, launching that venture fund, getting startups off the ground. That's where it was cool, but man, I like doing startups. I was either going to launch another fund or do another startup. Frankly, I'm doing this fund because Craig's like, hey, I got this investor, they're interested, hey, let's talk. It just came together. It was my partner, it was people, right? And if at that same time someone had
A
shown up
fund
and
is
said,
also
hey,
a startup, right?
well, it is. Then it's just another company.
Yep.
If Grace had bothered to say, hey, I got this idea, it's digital oil field. Well, I'm not that excited about digital oil field these days. It's not my current thing, but I was for a while. And she's like, I got this idea. We should go do it. All I needed was people, and I'd have pulled the trigger. And that's what you got to realize is there's always somebody else out there trying to do a startup. If you are not worried about which idea you pick or which problem you solve, you're just looking for a good, cool, awesome problem in a good, cool, awesome market with other people who are excited about the same thing, there's always another startup. You can always sell another contract. You can always sell more stock. You just got to take care of the people you're there with and take some shots on goal. It's like soccer. If you can play soccer, and you play one of them offenses where you don't do very much. There's one little breakaway and do a shot. You really think? I mean, this is like Brazilian soccer back in the day. Just get down and shoot. And if you aren't willing to get down and shoot, your risk profile in your career is actually higher than the risk profile in a startup. You're going to get fired from your job. It's just a matter of when. There's going to be another reorg.
You are.
Every 18 months in an oil company, there is a reorg. What are you doing, waiting for a package? I mean, come on. You only got one life to live. You got 30, 40 years of work time.
Wake up.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, more people. Another entrepreneur. Nisha, you've been paying for advice.
Nisha's got her arms crossed. I don't think she likes what I'm saying.
She's a solopreneur.
Oh, she knows.
She's a solopreneur. She's been paying for advice. I don't know how a cap table looks like, but
She's gonna be mad at me, Juliana. Let her talk.
that's why I'm calling her out.
Well, first of all, I'm not a solopreneur. I'm a sole founder, but I am not solo.
There are actually plenty of, like there's been some research on, yeah, not all companies get founded with 2 or 3 or 4 people. Our general rule is 1 is not enough, 4 or 5 is too many, but rules are made to be broken, right? So that doesn't always happen.
I will say, you know that number about female founders get 2% of VC? It's actually sole female founders get 2% of VC, which I view as actually really good odds, right?
So just like take my portfolio, right? We went and figured this out the other day. So we have 4 companies, got a bunch of founders in them, right? 2 of them are ex-military. Three of 4 have a founder over 40. 3 of 4 have a founder under 40. 3 of them have immigrant CTOs. 2 of them have female co-founders. Right? We didn't plan on any of that. So there's no bias except for what we get past our screen. But I just thought that was really super interesting. One of the founders is no longer there now. Yeah, and so things change up a bit, but the rules are made to be broken.
I hope so. But anyway, I will say that your comment about there being no product people in Houston, yeah, that's an issue. I am looking for a head of product, by the way. Wade,
yeah.
Look forward to meeting you.
We have a match here. I think we're done.
We're done.
Hardware? I'm looking, so we can chat, although I'm looking for more of a digital head of product, so.
Okay, more entrepreneurs. Let's see.
I have a question. So how do you convince people to join you before you're founded?
Be good, have a good idea.
So like you want them to quit their job and say like, hey, trust me, this is going to work out.
No, they're not trusting you. You're trusting the jump.
He needs to repeat the question. Otherwise, we're not going to get it on your nice video.
So she wants to know, how do you convince someone to quit their job and take that plunge? And my response is, be good and have something worth doing it for. And in reality, it's the wrong question. I don't want you to quit your job and trust me. Okay, that's not a founder. That's not a co-founder. That's employee number 1 or 3, right? That's great, but they need to get paid. They need some resource. Fine. A co-founder already wants to quit their job. They're just looking for somebody else to jump with. Yeah, you're gonna, it's like, I knew I was going to start something. It was a matter of what? It's a different DNA. Now, can you convince someone to take that job? Sure, sometimes, but that's a low percentage shot. The high percentage shot is, hey, Grace, do you want to do something? Yeah, I haven't figured out what yet. Okay, I'm interested too. I've got a couple ideas. What do you think? Yeah, Juliana, what are you going to do next?
Well, I'm interested.
Yeah, I love Greentown,
This is happening.
I might be convinced if something's cool.
Grace,
what are you thinking about?
Here, this is serious. Okay, okay, good.
Does that make sense?
So Ken, I can see you there. Talk about your co-founder. You met Andres.
You have a co-founder?
He has a co-founder, so I want to know how it happened. I did. I did before this, actually.
Yeah, so I guess in my case, we met over 20 years ago. We worked in several companies together, but we went different tracks. You know, he ended up going academic for a while I stayed in the industry, and even different parts of the oil and gas industry. But the idea for what we had really was born over 10 years ago. But like in everything in life, timing is critical. Our idea was a good idea, but 10 years ago wasn't so applicable. All of a sudden, 3 years ago became really interesting, and then, 2 years ago, it was the time. So we ended up and jumped on the opportunity. But it is a sacrifice. One of the problems, back to your question, how do you convince them? Well, one of the issues is that not everybody has the funds to not get income for 6 months or a year, right? And that's very difficult, and that's where you need to think, well, is this sacrifice worth what I might get later on, or I'm not willing to do it, right? That is a difficult question, but at the end, if you really believe in the idea, and if you believe in the team, like Neil said, and you really want to do something different, you just have to jump in the pool and learn and swim, right? And you pivot ideas, you pivot industries. In my previous startup, we actually had one track for 5 years. We completely pivoted, and we had another life for another 5 years until we sold the company, right? So when you think everything is going bad, it's, sometimes it is right. You just turn around, you look around, and you change, your direction, and you do it again. And I'm still here, so suffering, but I am. No, we pass. And
170 days. I'm not giving you 290 days.
270. But in hard tech, in equipment, it is difficult to get. And actually, I remember we had this conversation a while back when you mentioned the 270. It is hard to get a lot of things done in a short period of time when you can do design, you can do modeling, but then you have to build product, right? And to build it, to get that proof of concept in 270 days, it is difficult.
So I founded a company about 10 years ago, doing power electronics. It's kind of a valve for transmission grids. And it took us, I used to tell my partners, it takes us 12 months to raise money. And they'd tell me, no, this one's good, we're going to raise it in 6 months. And I'm like, dude, come on. We've done 5 of these. We know how long it takes. I can go give you the dates. They're like, no, 6 months. Then I realized if I believed it was going to take 12 months, and I convinced them all it was going to take 12 months, none of us would ever start and we wouldn't have a company. We had to lie to ourselves and tell us it was going to take 6 months. It always took 12 to raise the money. Now, there were days on every startup I've done that went anywhere. There were days where you were pretty sure you were just going to shut it down the next day. Like, we're done. Stick a fork in it. We cannot get the cards. It's okay.
So another rule is lie to yourself.
Yes, lie to yourself. Remember, startups are a bit irrational. So this same startup, we got our money. We got an A round, a $10 million A round, back when 10 million was a big amount of A round. Today it's, we're in Valley made-up money land. It's still real money. It's just the world's moved a bit. And then 30 days after that, we got a $5 million RPE grant. If I'd gotten that grant 30 days, maybe 60 days before, I'd have gotten a heck of a lot better terms on my deal, but I didn't. 330 days after that, we were hanging on utility power lines. And if you know anything about how the utility business works, that is impressive. Utilities drag companies to their death. 330 days. We were literally from lab to field. We were pulling out of university. It took me 11 months to get the license cut out of that silly university. Same 11 months to get product hanging on the power lines. So you can do it in hardware. Now, what happened? Well, I had those partners that, they'd stripping startups off their fingers as they walked down the street. They were stressing me. I was the CFO of that one, and I was signing $500,000 a month contracts to consultants, violating every rule I knew, 30 days after our fundraise, because we'd already gotten the people queued up to go. We knew what we were going to build. We had the engineers there. We'd talked them into working for us, basically just waiting on betting we're going to get there. And so we were able to pull the trigger fast. So if you're going to hit 270 in a hardware deal, you better have the team on board. You better have some space. You better have some conceptual drawings done. The first engineer, you better know where you're going. Code, fastest one I ever did. We launched a company. I had 1.5 engineers. There were 3 of them, but they weren't giving me very much time. We had a Ruby on Rails prototype that they refused to go to production on because, well, they hated Ruby. And we get our money. And we're supposed to, this is like July, we're supposed to hit a December 15th deadline for the United Nations. We're going to release product. We got it done. I didn't have a CTO. That was when I had to learn to run engineering, which was really interesting. And luckily, I had some really good engineers who all were kind of capable of figuring things out on their own. And all I had to do was discuss with them what we needed to build. That first product was 4 or 5 months. 3 engineers, basically 4 or 5 months, good ones. The first month was organizing. The last product out of that company took 30 days out of engineering. 6 months to do. Most of that was planning, mock-up with the customer, that sort of thing. 30 days after release to engineering, we were releasing to a major utility. Right? So it can be done, but the planning cycle you better kind of get right if you're going to go fast. We have some startups now, we've had them before, where it takes longer. Well, usually when it takes longer, you're not really prepared. It's like people ask me, how long is it going to take to fund, to do your process, to invest in you? Well, I'll do it in 72 hours. I know it can be done. I've watched it happen at Rice Alliance, you go to that business plan competition, and Rice on our sign, they're one of our partners for these events. Brad's going to be here for the how to raise money in a couple of weeks. Yeah, people will meet startups on a Wednesday and have a term sheet signed by Saturday night. You don't need time. There's nothing in a seed stage startup to diligence. I can go through your data room in literally 2 hours. Usually you don't have your stuff in your data room. Usually it'll take me 6 months to get to a term sheet because you're not ready. You just think you are. But this stuff doesn't have to take time. So when you're trying to discuss my bet, I got to jump in with whole feet, right? I'm not asking you to bet 2 to 5 years of your life. I'm asking 3 people together to bet 90 to 180 days to 270 days together. What is 6 months for a shot on goal that's really, really, really big? If you're wrong, just do another one. So in 2 years, I can get kind of 3 or 4 setups to get that one shot on goal. And then once you've got your money, the world changes.
You only have one shot, one opportunity.
No, you got lots of shots.
No?
This is Brazilian soccer. Shoot, 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 shoot.
We have someone there who wants to say something.
Yes.
So the previous entrepreneur mentioned 6 to 12 months of no income. I'm Connie Luthi, and I have founded a startup biotech company. So we're figuring 8 to 12, but we're seeking someone retired, that's the 8 to 12 with no income, from global biopharma manufacturing. We will be manufacturing active pharmaceutical ingredient on each continent. So if anyone knows anyone retired,
Stealing
from
my
global,
microphone to go pitch your startup. This is what you're supposed to do?
This is Startuplandia.
retired from global biopharma, tell them contact Connie Luthi because we need, and co-founder or not is flexible, but definitely we need someone to help raise money.
I will caveat, biotech, life science, different set of rules. I'm an IT guy, I'm an energy guy, I can do hardware, software. I cannot spell medical devices or biotech. It's got its own little rules. So if you want to do that, you need to get the playbook for that. It is different. The timelines, how you pull things off, et cetera. The venture capitalists are just as gameable. They just got to be gamed in a different way. All right, do we have time? I'm buying beers, so the longer we go, the fewer beers I got to buy, but that's okay.
He's holding this because, he promised that he'll buy beers for all of you. That was, we came here for the beer. So, okay. I think there's another, where's the mic? So you want to talk?
I've got one question. I don't want to
call
stand between
someone
people
up.
and their
I'm
beer,
gonna
but
also come.
just
All
a
right.
question about shots on goal. So you talk about taking shots on goal and shoot, but you also, I'm sure, have experience taking bad products to market. How do you advise founders to, juggle product development to be able and ready to take good shots on goal that are going to ultimately score?
Well, the first thing I'd say is don't take a bad product to market. I don't know how you do that, but I wouldn't do it. Doesn't sound good.
Right,
So-
but in a iterative process where you're kind of figuring out your business as you go, I imagine there are bad shots on goal, right? So how do you iterate that? I think it's the 4th step of your process.
Well, look, it depends on the phase you're in, right? In the early days, you're trying to figure out a problem that matters and a solution. And maybe you're close and maybe you're just tweaking it. When you got resources, now the burn time starts. If it's just Grace and Juliana and I, it's just our time. So if we take a couple more months to figure out what to do, we're not spending any money. We're not hurting ourselves. Once we got cash and I got 10 people on the payroll and I'm burning $200K or $300K a month, man, I can burn some serious cash fast and I can get to where I've got basically a lot of cash burn relative to the performance, and then I screw up my ability to raise more money, and I'm getting the pain. So when you're spending real money, you got to know what you're building, right? You got to figure that out cheap, which means either fast or don't spend very much and take a while to do it, or just do a better job of if you're going to take a lot of money and a lot of time, you better be really certain you're right. We had a rule, one of the truisms we didn't get to.
Oh my, there's more?
There's a lot more. Usually, the big decision post winning phase, but the post got some resource, is when to step on the gas. Okay? You've been trained as an engineer to do stage gate. or some variant of that, which basically means take a little step, test, take a little step, test, take a little step. This works. You manage risk that way, but startups are not in the business of managing risk. They're in the business of taking risk. So you do that until you know you're ready to go massively parallel. Valley startups, the hyper-growth model is a massively parallel process. I got to do A, B, C, D, and E to win, okay? Stage gate is I do A, test. When it's right, I do B, test. When it's right, I do C, test, etc. Massively parallel says, well, look, I'm going to bet that I can get A there, B there, C there, D there, and E there. I'm going to bet that I'm right, and I'm going to do them all at once, which is 5 times the money.
I have one here who's doing that. Federico.
5 times the money, right? But it's actually the same amount of money because I was going to spend it anyway. Mm-hmm. Problem is I'm spending it at once, so I can get it in 1/5 the time, but I got to spend it all now. And if I'm wrong on A, I just stranded B, C, D, and E, and I'm hurting. So you got to decide, are you right enough, and do you need to go fast enough to step on that gas and go massively parallel? Because if you don't, in most startups, in a competitive market, you will get caught from behind and pulled over, right? Running back, running down the field, you grab them by the jersey and pull them down. That's what will happen.
So Federico, I'm putting you on the spot here. So who has a mic for Federico?
My name is Peter Liu. I guess I've been trying to figure out how to do this startup for probably about a half a year or 1 year. Okay, I can't call myself as a career new party, but I've been doing this R&D work for about my whole life, probably 28 years. So I do know A, B, and C, and D. Okay. The question I have first one is, I heard people talking about 10 people, probably only 2 people success. And that's a first question I have. In average, say when you start a new business or startup, how long you think a person, average speaking, can start actually make money? 4 years, 5 years, 2 years? That's the first question. Like,
All fundraisings take 12 months door to door. So, plus or minus, but
so
usually
you
12
think,
months plus a bit.
After 12 months, you should make money. If you don't, then just go.
I'll quote my grandmother, who ran a school way back in the day when I started my first company. She says, Neil, this is fantastic. You're going to start making money in 4 years. And I'm like, Grandma, no. Come on, Grandma. We're much better than that. We're going to be making money fast. She just smiled and, So we were putting money in for the first year, and then we started making some money, but not real money. And damn it, it was year 4 before we started making some serious money. She was right. I don't know how. She'd just been around a lot of entrepreneurs. She'd seen a lot of startups. My granddad had been through one, So those aren't real rules. Those are just rules of thumb. Yeah, and usually, we got some, usually old startups is bad because it means you're missing something. Right? If it's not going fast, you're usually missing something. Usually when an old startup starts going fast later, something changed. So probably if it's taken a long time, it's either you or you need to change something. And there's a little bit of, hey, let's just kind of figure it out. It may be the market's so bad for what you're doing, it just doesn't matter. It's a dead man walk-in. And it may be you're one person away. Right? It may be you just don't have the product market fit. You're missing something in the product. And sometimes you're just in a cul-de-sac. And it is super hard to tell.
Okay, second question. So if in 1 year, it's so easy to make money, so that means someone pretty easy to copy your stuff. Basically, you are innovative, but in the same time, how you're going to protect yourself to be sustainable for 20 years? Is that something you have to do with patent technology? How that will relate with a startup? How they tie together?
So I don't worry about moat and sustainability and protectability. I mean, at the end of the day, if that's kind of after winning. I mean, if you really think it's good, yeah. We're in a first to file world on patents, file everything and let God sort it out. But in reality, you can't protect a moat if a moat's not any good if you don't have a castle. So you got to build. So the focus is on getting the bricks to build the castle. I'm not worried about the moat. The moat is a nice to have and might be a sufficient condition. It sure as heck is not a minimum condition.
So I'm going to teach my kids to play all these board games because I want to make sure they got all
Settlers
the.
is a good game.
Yeah.
Who's actually played Settlers again? Raise your hand. Yeah.
Okay, so Federico, why don't you take the mic? I like Federico's story because he's a serial entrepreneur in parallel, and he's getting so many projects, and a lot of them have traction, and some of them have funding or are about to. So I want to hear your thoughts about this one.
But does he want to hear it?
What do you want me to comment on? The different companies or just the main one?
Yeah, all the projects you have and how you're managing all them parallel.
Okay, I had a lot of IP. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started a couple different companies and exited very well with most of them. Ruggles Green was one of them that I started, and it did
My
extremely
favorite
well.
restaurant.
Yeah, and I've got investors wanting me to do that again, but that's not in my scope right now, maybe next year. But right now, I had a lot of different technologies, and I had a lot of different folks that wanted to invest, and I had to sort of decide which one I was going to put all my time and effort into.
Yes, because all that IP is worthless without you. It's focus.
That's correct.
Pick.
So some of them I just put on hold.
Yeah.
I said, this is on hold until it's ready.
I don't want to hear about them, because if you tell me about them, I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to get, my head's going to hurt. I'm going to try and decide, are you focused? So just lie to me and tell me you only got the one you want to sell to me. I'm serious. It's okay.
I'll lie to you, but it's hard when you have.
Did you do your homework? I mean, you can.
Oh yeah, I did a ton of homework, and a lot of the times the hard part is just getting started. It's like I did years of homework, put a lot of my own money into the effort. In fact, the first Moonflower Farms, when I started, it was 3 years of my own money saying, I think we're ready to scale. I think the time is right, the technology is right, and we're ready to go. But it was mostly vetting the technology in the emerging hydroponic industry. And I felt by 2030, every major city was going to be using hydroponics inside and out near the cities. It just solved too many problems. So that's what I put all my effort in. I said, this is where I'm going to go. The scope of the problem is huge. The opportunities are huge. Everything else can wait. And that's fine. So with that, that's what we're doing now, is trying to decide how we're going to get. COVID certainly slowed things down, for sure. But now, all of a sudden, we're getting all kinds of demand and inquiries, and I got to decide how we're going to get to that next level. We're doing our seed round right now, and I've got a lot of different suitors and trying to figure out how we're going to move forward.
So you're selling to Kroger, right?
We're in 16 Krogers now. They want us to be in 50 by the end of the year. We just got a preferred vendor contract of Houston Independent School District. We have about 10 other school districts that are coming to us because now they're wanting to incorporate a hydroponics curriculum in their schools. If it wasn't for COVID, we would have never known about the education market. The education market came to us because of COVID. Before, it was restaurants and bars and hotels and distributors, and we know what happened during COVID with all that. So it was the market actually came to us. So that's where we're at right now. But we're definitely got a lot of interested parties wanting to do something.
Well, I'm glad you got some focus. That's good to hear.
We believe in we have a mantra. We call it "Pound the Rock," and we want all our startups to have a rock, know what the rock is, and pound the rock. Kind of like not what TCU did, right? Run between the tackles, run downhill, run to daylight, all the good little, but pound the rock. If it's working, run it. If it's the right play, run it. Keep running it till you wear them down and punch through. And if you're wrong, it's okay. Change up the play, adjust, then pound that rock. But only do one at a time. Because otherwise, look, you want to do 5 products at once, you need 5 times the resource, and you really need 10 times the resource because focus is worth the whole by itself. It's not that there aren't many interesting, fun things to do. I've got 3 or 4 businesses I'd like to start, but I can only do one at a time. I'm running a fund.
That's correct. No, 100%. So I think that's why we're getting so much traction now. COVID sort of created an immense amount of focus on what we needed to do.
Okay, so Neil, people are not leaving, and you're going to have to pay those beers.
This is.
I know. Is this a success, a failure? I don't know.
That depends on if they show up next week.
Next time?
Right.
Okay.
This is what I told Juliana. I said, Juliana, you need to be snarky. right? And the only thing that matters is getting good video and if they show up next week.
Okay, so next week we'll know.
So next week, right here,
I'm glad I
same
won't be here to
stage.
see it.
You won't be here to see it?
No, but I'll make sure to see the video.
That's
You have a
good.
good
That's
video,
good.
right?
Next week, Andrew Nicholson from Goose Capital and I are going to talk about basically how a venture fund works, how it makes money, demystifying all of these stupid things VCs do in their own business, because if you're going to go sell them, you need to understand how they get paid. After that, the week after, Brad Burke, the Rice Alliance, and a special friend of mine, special guest from Amazon's Climate Pledge Fund and I are going to talk about how to raise money as a first-time founder, like the process of gaming that said VC. And then the fourth one, on the 1st of February, we are doing the mistakes founders make after they get their A round, after they get the resource, the cash, when they're in that winning phase.
So do we get a special prize for people who showed up for the 4 of them?
Yes.
Okay.
There will be beer each time. Grace,
Okay.
are y'all going to buy beer one of these times? Oh, yeah.
Very
So BP
cool.
Ventures, who is resident upstairs here, has committed they're going to buy one of the beers at one of these times. I got a couple other people I think are going to buy some of the others, so the expectation is beer. And so now I'm going to go open a tab at upstairs, right? So you just turn around, walk upstairs if you want to, and we can drink. I'm going to open tab for half an hour. Please don't break my bank. My partner's up there. He will shoot me if the bill is too big.
Well, you know, you were killed by success. Okay, huge round of applause for Neil. Thank you.
So real quick, that was amazing. Thank you all for being here. We will see you all in second draft in just about 2 seconds. I have a few bits of homework for you. Look right and look left. So don't look at me. Look right and look left. This is your community. These are your peers. These are the people I want you to talk to in just about 30 seconds when you go up to second draft. So thank you all for coming. Again, a huge round of applause to Neil and Juliana. And we'll see you up in second draft.